Hello, this is Game Changers with Vicki Abelson, and my guest today is John Waite. John, you did make me wait a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little rough hooking up. I've been hooking up. It's been yeah, I've been doing interviews, so many, and podcasts. It's like second nature now, but I'm just trying to cover everything. It's like there's so many to do.
You see, now I'm really bummed because I thought I was really special.
You are special.
So now I'm kind of crushed.
You're the best looking.
Well, I'll say, and I'm in my pajamas, as you know.
Yeah, no, I like the pajama thing.
The pajama thing. Before we're done, I'll be taking off the jacket. I wanted to wear a jacket because it reminded me of you. Okay, let's talk about you, the natty dresser that you are. When you were a kid, did you have style? Did you?
Yeah, I remember wearing my dad's or somebody's canary yellow waistcoat, and I had a pinstripe shirt and winkle picker shoes that my mum let me have when I was about 8.
Wait a minute, what are winkle picker shoes?
Well, the teddy boys used to wear them. They got points on the end and buckles, and it was like the mark of a rocker. Wow. And they had them in small sizes in this shop called Timpson's, and wow. she let me have them. And by the time I hit school, I had the full kind of look. I always had that kind of thing but I made it out of hand-me-downs and bits and pieces. It was I could never afford to go into a shop and buy great stuff.
So you had that. Were your parents styling? Was your mother styling?
Yeah. She's beautiful. She's still alive. She's 96. But she was a tremendous style, and same thing though. Make clothes. But she had it going on. She was a beautiful woman, still is. And my dad, he had that thing too. He had a lot of like character. He had a motorcycle.
Wow.
And, he was a mechanic. And
I was just going to say, what did he do for? Oh, Beth Sussman is saying hi to you. She's a mutual.
Oh, hey Beth, that's lovely. Yeah, I remember Beth. She's like New York again.
Yeah. We're going to have a lot of New York in the house.
That's great though. You never get enough of that. But my dad, as he progressed through life and we made more money, he would show up in a really killer sports jacket and he had a brush cut. And he was part of that 40s thing where people like Kerouac and all that, they look like, he had that thing like clothes were all baggy and he was a mechanic and he'd come home reeking of oil and petrol, but he was great looking. And he had the heavy boots and work pants. And then he'd go out and look at this motorcycle and mess around with it and then come back and solve chess problems. He was a chess master, my dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was he a musician?
No, but he loved music, and he spent all his life trying to turn me on to classical music, and I just couldn't get it, and especially opera. And I regret it because as I got older, I suddenly got it. Pavarotti.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you gone? Have you gone to the opera and done that?
Yeah, in New York. I went a couple of times, and I've started to collect it. I mean, it's Nassendoma, you hear Pavarotti doing that. It's like, where's the handkerchief? It's like, it just breaks your heart. Any kind of music is great as long as it's got heart.
And you have so much of it in yours. I was saying that I've been listening to Wooden Heart. Why is it called Wooden Heart, John?
Well, it's an acoustic record. It's 3 CDs. But in the 70s, they used to call folk music like Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Neil Young, they used to call it wooden music. And Wooden Heart is obviously got like 3 or 4 meanings, but that's why it's called Wooden Heart.
I love it. And by the way, to everyone out there, I am going to first plug in, and then I'm going to put the link to John's website where you can access all of his music and the art. Okay, so John, behind you is something that you're working on. Lean the other way. Yeah, that one. So tell us about this.
Well, it started off as a boxer, like a prize fighter. I'm working with Neil Giraldo on a musical for Broadway.
Wow.
and it's got pugilistic overtones. And so I was thinking about boxers a great deal. So I started off with a boxer, and it's a collage. There's like buttons and material, and it evolved into this other thing, and then it became a scarecrow. Then it became back to just a face of character, and now it's back to boxer. It's back to being a winner, which is going to be kind of the scars of outrageous fortune. You know, it's going to be the price of winning. You know, and it's only just I've only just last night reconfigured the face and gone back in with some red, and it's going to develop. It's either going to develop or I'll paint it out again.
No, I was saying to you before we went on the air that on LinkedIn you had posted this fantastic self-portrait you had done, and then you undid it. And
that's it.
And that's the same exact one?
Yeah.
Wow. It was
if that's the one I think you're talking about, but they go from they're like liquid, you know, and if it just all clicks sometimes and you just move forward, and sometimes it's fighting you all the way.
And how about the one that's to your right? We if you can move your camera a little bit so we can see it. I could see it before. Okay. Wow. So now that's a
poster. That's a poster from the website. The original is hang on.
Fantastic. And that's you with a guitar, I assume.
Yeah, this is the original. This is but yeah, I mean we started off like a really small thing. I would come out of a gig.
Turn us back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd come out of a gig and there'd be people waiting in the rain, or people couldn't get in or couldn't afford to get in, which was even more poignant. And I would do a small cartoon of myself on the albums. So I'd give them something a little extra for all that time and talk to them. I always talk to the people that wait. And but it was a small gift. It's like giving somebody a guitar pick, you know. It was a nicer thing. And anybody that waits outside in the rain to see me, I'll spend an hour with them. So, and then people started ringing up and emailing me saying, we really would like one. And I want one for my rec room, or whatever you call it, den.
Right.
And, you know, and I started banging them out. And then I thought, well, I'm almost going back to being a full-time artist. So I started selling them. And then it became, there's other ones like this. This is Artaud, the French surrealist poet.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you work in different mediums. That looks like a charcoal. Yeah.
No, this is crayon and Sharpies and watercolor.
I can
whatever's
see
available.
Sharpie. I love it. So now, are these things that we, the little people, can afford to buy, John?
Yeah, the smaller pieces are about $250, $350, and they go to about $2,000. The big pieces.
Are they all signed?
Oh yeah, yeah, they're all signed. But it's like I said before we got on the air, as we call it. I just been talking to a gallery that wants to represent me, and I went to art school for 4 years, and I was going to be
let's talk about that. So when you were a little kid, art came first or music came first?
Well, it came together because my cousin Michael was a great guitar player. And my first memory of a guitar is Michael playing this great big national dobro kind of thing with a resonator in it, playing Freight Train, Freight Train, going so fast. And Nancy Whiskey songs, Lonnie Donegan, skiffle,
Right.
But he was at art school,
mm-hmm.
and he got kicked out of his mum's house for being such a kind of a rebel, really. And he went to live with my grandmother, my dear old, lovely, beautiful grandmother, Nana Lillian. And she put him in the spare room.
My grandma Nana was Lillian too.
Really?
Yes, I swear. We called her Libby.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, Nana's, man. Oh, God. But anyway, Michael, I was his favorite nephew, and he used to show me how to paint and play me songs. And so they came together. I think in Britain at that point, the art scene was very closely linked to music. although nothing was happening outside of the Shadows and Lonnie Donegan and blues. We had a lot of, and country and western in its own strange way.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Brenda Lee. I had a crush on Brenda Lee when I was 6. You know, it was really great. And so I was always, country music was there before Cowboys and Indians, you know, western music, Marty Robbins, Brenda Lee, Jim Reeves, all that kind of corny stuff. And then Michael played me Hank Williams. And that was like, you know, I was too young to get what was going on. It's like sex, you know. You kind of suspect something great, but you don't know how it works, you know. And being 6, you put it together fairly soon, but it was just something I witnessed and was sort of party to, that I didn't really know what was going on.
Wow. And but your first career thought, though, I mean, you went to art school. So was the goal to be a professional artist?
Yeah, I was going to illustrate, pen and ink, watercolors, that kind of thing. I was really influenced by the French lithographers, Mucha. Everybody loved Mucha, and Toulouse-Lautrec, and Aubrey Beardsley when it came to line drawing, and Sickert when it came, and Sargent when it came to painting. But everybody, I mean, it's a hard thing to express, but a lot of people in England are really kind of, you know, art is just in the room with them. You know, you have the quiz programs, and there'll be, you know, like Mastermind, and some plumber from Willesden will be on, and he say, "Your subject tonight, sir," is going to go like Shakespeare's sonnets. And then the questions are about Shakespeare's sonnets. And this plumber from Neasden knows absolutely everything.
Wow.
I mean, people have that. And it's not considered hoity-toity or like, you know, like, yeah. It's like my dad with the motorcycle. We were all very aware of art in Britain, especially in that time. And it wasn't considered, like I say, highbrow. It was just, everybody just knew about it. TV was great. TV was there'd be plays that would be rock your world inside out and very hardcore, you know. And then, but the whole family all over Britain would be watching it in all different, the Queen would be watching it, you know. Yeah.
And so where did music start for you? Did it start with a guitar from your uncle?
Well, no, cousin.
Your cousin.
Well, yeah, my brother Joe got a guitar, Gaiatone, when I was about 10 or 8, and he was 11. And really a cheap, nasty guitar, but they're worth thousands of dollars now. And he became a really brilliant guitar player. He moved on to a Fender Telecaster pretty fast, but he was the local rogue, really. He was out there, you know, being a bad boy and playing the guitar, and he was really good. I can't tell you how good Joe is, and still is. And I mean, I go home and he pulls out the guitar and plays something, and I go like, "How the fuck did you do that?"
Wow.
You know? But I was in his shadow, and I wanted to play bass, which is what I did with the Babies. I love the bass. I like the zenness of it. I love bass lines. I love the cello, the oboe, double bass. And my mind was always following the bass line. And I was listening to a lot of blues and would play along on the top 4 strings of Joe's guitar. And then I got a small bass. And
what was your first bass? I had a Rickenbacker. I played bass for about 5 minutes. What was your first bass?
Well, my brother had a band, and the bass player bought a Fender Precision, and he gave me for £5 his Hofner guitar, his Hofner bass. It was a President with a Telecaster body he'd made in wood shop, you know, whatever you call it, and put it all together. And I had this little Mickey Mouse kind of like medium scale, but a Rickenbacker is a very nice guitar, you know.
It was
that was my first bass, and I it was always there. I played art school dances with Joe, my brother, and then I got my own band together, and then I left art school.
And so when you were playing in bands when you were in school, what kind of music were you playing back then?
Oh, blues. It was blues. There's a lot of, like, I listened to a lot of blues at the time. So it was Elmore James and you know, BB King and all that. Some Hendrix. I tried Hendrix and Traffic, Humble Pie, Free, that kind of thing. I was just learning to be a singer, really. I never thought of myself as a singer. I thought of myself as a bass player. So
how did that have? So were you not the lead singer in your early bands?
well, no, I'd take a song or two, but it was like something that was required to get through the night. I knew I could sing. It's just I didn't think it was going to be where I was going. But when the babies were together and they didn't have anybody that wrote songs, and I could write songs and I could play bass and I could sing. So between me and the guitar player, with me, they had a band. Without me, they didn't have anything. And I had to step into the role of singer, which I was more than prepared to do. I'm not being coy. I love to sing. And I just didn't have that ego that would say, oh, Lord, fuck it. Maybe I did, in my polite English way. You know, I mean, I always knew how it should be. And if somebody was overplaying, and I had songs that I'd written and I could sing. And I think I became a better singer, much better singer as I got older. But when you listen to the baby's early stuff, I seem to be pretty much there, you know.
Pretty much there. Did you ever take voice lessons? Did you ever take guitar lessons? Did you take bass lessons?
No.
Nothing.
I can't read music either. As I saw that fabulous McCartney 3-2-1 thing on Hulu. And everything that McCartney said, I'd already said the week before in some podcast. I mean, I thought, is Paul listening to me? He said, you know, the bass can control a band. And I said that about 2 weeks before. And I thought, Paulie. But I think bass players feel a certain way about music. And the bass is it's like the dark shadow. You know, you can do so much with it. And you can suggest things as the band is playing live. And you can guide the band into something. And then if you're not playing the root note, you're kind of like you're in jazz. But if the lead line is rock or just folk or whatever, you have something you've got something. You can put something across that might just be original or trying to be.
Well, you're certainly that, if nothing, you original is something you are and have always been. So you're playing blues in the early days. And when did you write your first song? When did you realize, oh, I can do this?
Well, with the babies, when I was a little kid waiting for the bus to go home from school, the bus was Scotforth 11. I lived in Scotforth, and the bus, double-decker bus, was called 11. It'd come around the corner, and I was singing this song, Scotforth 11. You know, so I was always messing around in the back of my head. But when the babies, when we were, me and Mike Corby, the guitar player, were just feeling it out and trying to come up with something, I wrote 2 songs over a weekend to give us something to play. And then we went in the studio and recorded them. And I was a singer. So over the space of a week, I went from being a bass player that was looking for a gig to lead singer, major songwriter with a band that was about to, you know, it just happened. And instead of like going, I went like, yeah, you know, I was just, I had so much more I could do. And it was just what I lived for, really. I not told myself it was possible, but once it was, I ran with it, you know.
So it was just being in the moment, and it just started to come together. How did it come together? How did that start? How did the baby?
Well, I'd just come back from America. I'd gone off to Cleveland to join a band that was supposed to be getting a record deal. They didn't. I stayed for like 5 months, fell in love with Cleveland and Cleveland radio, Kid Leo. The people were great. Everybody was like really friendly, warm, funny. And it was America. It was like I had my first McDonald's the morning I got there. And I was just talking about that with the band the other night. And it was like, oh man, McDonald's, you know. But and I came back kind of like I just didn't have any money, and I pretty thin. It bottomed out, and I went to London, and this guy from a guitar shop said he knew somebody that was trying to put a band together. Did I want to come down and have a jam? And it was Mike Corby and this guy, Gordon, fell away pretty fast. And me and Corby were stuck with each other. So it just kind of got to that. And I was writing songs. And then Tony Brock came down, the drummer, who was the happening guy on the London scene as a drummer, very powerful player. And we had a 3-piece band, and the manager started trying to get us a record deal.
And where did the name The Babies come from?
Well, one day, first of all, I'm dyslexic. I don't put I-E-S. I always put Y when it's plural. And
that was going to be my next question. Why is it with a Y? Okay, good. There you go.
Well, I was having a row with the we're all having a row with the manager. We're in this rehearsal space we had on Tooley Street, which was by the Thames. And I can't even begin to tell you how Dickensian it was. It was like big, massive warehouses, and it was always foggy. And there's a little pub on the corner, and this little old man used to play the piano. You know, my old man said, follow the van, and I'll dilly-dally on the way, yeah. It was just so, it was like Mary Poppins. It was like ridiculous.
Like Oliver, yeah.
Yeah, you know, go on, steady yourself. And Lionel Bart, yeah. And it was all those, it was like, what the fuck are we? It was like, it was absolutely like a fairy tale, but rough. And what was the question?
How that you got the name The Babies.
Oh, right. So we're in this cellar, in this big furniture warehouse owned by these artists from the Royal College. They were painting and stuff and making stuff in the warehouse. We were downstairs playing. And the manager and me were having a big set to, or with all of us. And he went, he said, you're all a bunch of fucking babies. He was like an East End gangster, you know. And then he ran out and slammed the door. And we all stood there like, well, yeah, maybe we. And then he burst back in and said, that's it. You're called The Babies. And yeah, so it went from you're all a bunch of fucking babies to The Babies. And then when I was writing out songs, like babies songs, instead of putting IES or whatever, I naturally being dyslexic, put the Y. And that's why it had the weird spelling.
It just stuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of love that. So, okay, so you guys have come together. He's shopping a deal for you. You guys are you're writing music.
Yeah.
Going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so your process, John, because I'm a writer. There are some writers out there. What comes first for you? I read that, and I don't know if this is true, that you wrote the lyrics to Missing You in like 20 minutes. Is that so?
Yeah. No, I made it up over somebody else's chord changes in a studio. I went round to somebody's house to finish this song we're working on. It wasn't that good. The album was almost finished, but I knew we hadn't got a song. And he was looking for this track that we'd worked on the night before, and he hadn't put any code on the tape, so he didn't know where it was. And he hit stop and play, and this other instrumental came on. Dun, 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 you know, like
yes,
like, you know. And I said, what's that? And he went, it's nothing. I'm just working on it. And it had chord changes, and it went somewhere. And I said, just give me a shot of that. I swear to God, you know, that there's something there. And I went in the next room, the bedroom, with the headphones, the home studio. And I used Every Time I Think of You, which is a baby's song, to get started. And I got the whole first verse and the whole chorus in one. Wow. And it was like being hit in the head. I mean, I knew it was good. I knew it was a number one. It knocked the wind out of me. I actually choked. I was so emotional. I couldn't even start the second verse. And everybody knew it was going to be number one, really.
I just was listening to Wooden Heart and heard the acoustic version again. And I almost prefer it. It's so raw. It's so you. And it's so grown up. That's what we were talking about before. It just feels... Well,
yeah,
I don't want to push you to do that. Go ahead.
You went completely, I couldn't hear a thing you said for about 4 seconds.
Well, because I interrupted you. You
Sorry.
know, I'm a girl. That's what I do. I interrupt. I'm
No,
annoying.
I interrupted you, and I'm sorry. I keep sort of running off at the mouth, really. But
No, I'm loving that. I'm loving that. I was going to say you're holding a guitar right now, so I was going to ask you to play a little on it if you would.
well, what do you want? Every time I think of you,
God.
I always catch my breath, and I'm still standing here, and you're miles away, and I'm wondering why you left. And there's a storm that's raging through my frozen heart tonight. I ain't missing you at all since you've been gone away. I ain't missing you at all. No matter what my friends might say, I ain't missing you at all.
Oh my God, you gave us a taste. Wow, that was
Well,
delicious.
I should have gone to the higher note, but I just woke up. I took a nap before our interview.
No, I'm sorry. That was just perfect for me. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so writing music. Okay, so the babies happens. Are you expecting how it blows up? I imagine your life changes. Okay, so you're from humble beginnings, John?
I am working class family. My first memory is with my cousin Mary playing on a rug next to a board floor over a motorcycle shop at the family garage. And we lived in a terrace cottage after that, with about 10 terrace cottages facing into the countryside.
Wow.
Cornfields, a big valley. It was an idyllic childhood. And opposite, there was a massive park that had lanes and strange twists and turns and a huge structure in the middle. It was really, and there was a Quaker cemetery about 100 yards up the road that was from the 16th century, I think, 17th.
Wow.
But that's where I was raised. I mean, I think that's my affinity for country and blues, is that I really was brought up like that. We had an outside toilet behind the alley.
Oh.
Like a stone wash house with a toilet. We didn't have a bathtub. When I was a little kid, they give me a bath in front of the electric fire in a tin tub.
Wow.
Yeah, great.
So and yes, wonderful. So okay, so when you were in high school, you're still. Did you have jobs, John? Did you ever like work a job?
Yeah, when I left school, after art school, I went straight from school to art school after the summer holidays. But after that, or in the summer holidays, I worked at a service station on the motorway. Me and my best mate went and got jobs there, but they were put me in the kitchen washing dishes, and I lasted 36 hours. Yeah, I showed up the second day for my wages. Yeah, and
That was a little too humble.
yeah, and I also worked in the Winter Gardens, which is a theatre in Morecambe, which is 4 miles from Lancaster on the sea, in the flies of the Winter Gardens, pulling the curtains apart for people like, we had such a lot of the Tiller Girls, all sorts of like vaudeville. And I was with all these gypsies and my brother, and real hardcore guys, and me just being an art, trying to pull these things. But I mean, that's the cinema, that's the theater that Laurence Olivier did. The Entertainer, is it? The Entertainer.
Oh my God.
Do you remember that movie? That's Morecambe. That's the next town over from Lancaster. But that's where they filmed that. Wow. And when you look at the seafront, you see all the places that I knew. We used to go there and paddle in the sea and go to the arcades. And it was like a big day out to go to Morecambe. But Laurence Olivier, stayed in a boarding house there. Laurel and Hardy went there on that tour of Britain they made a movie about, Stan and Ollie. My mother was pregnant with my brother Joe, and she was outside the Winter Gardens, I think it was, and Ollie came out, and they were stood there, and Ollie waved his tie at my mum.
Oh,
Yeah, it's great shit. You know, it's like, and this is America. This is like all this sort of thing, even though it was a black and white world and it was kind of dark and there was all this like gangster sort of like chic and vaudeville and ballad singers and before rock and roll quite. It's very evident in performance. Nicholas Roeg's movie with Mick Jagger and but that world of Soho was sex and it was like it was kind of rock, but it wasn't that yet. The Cray Twins, and that was the 50s Britain. And then as the Beatles kicked in the 60s, everything changed overnight.
right.
Everything. You know, all the guys who used to kick the shit out of you at school wanted to be hip. And the poor bastards that couldn't get out of the life that they'd found themselves were still going to beat you up. But it was moving out of this isolation, this Northwestern thing. And because the Beatles were from Liverpool, which was only 70 miles south of us. So, you know, it gave everybody a voice. And suddenly everything was rock and roll.
So when did that happen for you? Because I don't even know this. Okay, in America, it was all about Ed Sullivan. That's when we found the Beatles.
Yeah, yeah.
When did the Beatles go crazy for you?
Well, I actually saw their first TV appearance on the TV. It was on I think it was called People and Places. And it was on at 6:30 at night on a black and white TV. And there'd been a kind of a rumor about them, a rumor that there's this band from Liverpool and you're not going to believe it. And I don't know how I heard of it, probably from Michael or Joe or my Auntie Carol or cousin Carol. Is it? I don't know. No, Auntie. And Auntie, very beautiful girl. And there they were. It just, you know, I think it was Please Please Me or Love Me Do, but they came back about 2 weeks later and did another single. And but I actually saw their first appearance, and it was like
it before we got them. Was it before 1963?
Oh man, yeah, it was about 2 years before, and
wow.
It was just a single. They hadn't put out the album yet, wow. And then I think with the second Beatles album was the one they toured America with, so it would have been at least a year and a half.
Everybody had Meet the Beatles, but I had Introducing the Beatles, which was the orange cover from DJ, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Different album.
So you're already playing music then. Are you playing music then?
No, I'm just, I'm trying to look cool. You know, my dad found a bootlace tie, or he said he'd found it, out on the garage front, we used to call it, where people walk by. He might have bought it for me or something. He's a very shy person. But he had a saddle. He had a silver saddle, and it had silver tips, and it was a string tie, you know. But I wore that thing out. I mean, it was like, that was the hippest thing, you know. I had a bootlace tie. And then I got some Beatle boots, and then that was like, but I was only about 10. Wow. You know, it was bigger than life itself. When the Beatles, I mean, my learning about being grown up was wrapped up in the Beatles and James Bond, you know, the James Bond movies. That was girls. That was very sexy girls that were like, you know, I was probably way out of my mental league. But I was becoming very fascinated with girls. And then you had these extremely beautiful women in the James Bond movies.
And then a Beatle married a Bond girl, and then what are you going to do with that?
What are you going to do with that? Didn't see that coming. You didn't see that coming at all. Yeah.
So, okay, so did you grow your hair? Did you have a Beatle?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I was the only kid in town with long hair. I really was. And it was red. I mean, people don't, I mean, it's all dyed now and messed up, but it was red. It was genuinely like a chestnut red. My beard was red when it came in. And so I had the double whammy of having long hair and it was red, dressed up in this yellow waistcoat with the pinstripe. I mean, I don't know how I had the balls to do it, but when you're that age, you believe in it so much. You know, it was part of
you
know.
Go ahead.
No, that was it.
It was part of what?
part of the.
So you're like a dedicated follower of fashion, though. You and a maverick of fashion yourself. That whole androgynous baby
Yeah.
thing. You've had that signature earring forever. The one drop earring is kind of the John Waite thing.
Is it really?
I think it is. I mean, I associate it to you. I always have. And then you had the makeup. I mean, so what was that? How has it been like? What has it been like for your family, for your parents?
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't like you think. I mean, the only thing with the makeup was kohl pencil, because Keith Richards he would always wear kohl, which was this Indian eyeliner thing that you'd put in your eyes and it looked really intense, and that was considered like dandy, but like tough. If you were going to go out and you were wearing kohl, you were Keith Richards. If you had the earring as well, you better fucking be careful, because you look like. But I used to go out wearing tiger skin jackets and shit in London. I always dressed sharp, and a lot of other people did. But it was a small community of people. The makeup thing, Mike Corby was extremely into the makeup. I mean, I see some candid shots of us standing around on the street, and he's got the full gear on. He's like got red cheeks and the hair permed, and I would just put some kohl in there in my eyes, and I always looked kind of like I had a great tailor. I had this guy on Sunset Strip called Glenn Palmer, and he was one of the chief tailors at Granny Takes a Trip on the King's Road, which turned into Sex, which was Vivienne Westwood's store, the Sex Pistols, everything, right?
Wow.
But he'd come to America and had a small shop up from the Whiskey A Go-Go on the next block going west. And as I came into LA, I think the first time we drove down Sunset, and I looked left, and there was this incredible jacket in the window with thunderbolts all over it. And I thought, whoever that is, I'm going to go and see him. And I went to see him, and he was from the north of England like me. He didn't have any airs and graces. He was a friend of Joe Cocker's. And it hung out with Joe in the early days. He became a very close friend of Tom Petty, and lived with Tom right up to the end of his life.
Wow.
And but he made all my clothes in the baby. I would go to him and say, I've only got $200. What can I have? And he'd go in the back and pull out these bolts of 50s material and say, what do you want? And I go, like a two-piece suit, and I want some gold lame sneakers to go with it. And 2 weeks later, he'd have it. Like a leopard skin suit. I had a leopard skin corduroy print, and then a suit with like spaceships on, that they weren't spaceships, but it was like 50s, hard to find material. And he was an absolute master tailor.
And your suits just fit you so brilliantly.
Well, it's all tailored. And I think part of the baby's success would have to be part of what Glenn did, because I couldn't have presented that kind of thing without Glenn. It was just great.
Spectacular. Did you ever shop in New York at Trash and Vaudeville? Do you remember that?
Yeah. They're shut now. It's gone.
I know. So what'd you do with all those clothes? Do you have your clothes?
Yeah, no, I've a lot of them. Some of them just wore out, got stolen, but I've got like 4 or 5 of the original suits. And I mean, he was still making them for me up to about like 10 years ago. And I have the original leopard skin jacket, but it's all mint condition. And one of these days they'll probably wind up in the Hard Rock.
Of course. And so, where do you shop now, John? Well, we're going to talk
Goodwill. Goodwill. I actually do. I try and find 40s jackets, and I mean, I really have an eclectic taste, but I think you put anything together and it's going to look cool, with the right kind of boots or the right kind of shirt. It's an art, really. But I don't dress it up as much. I try and be more formal. I try and do the sort of elder kind of suave man of the world degenerate look, Well,
that's why I've got my jacket on over my pajamas for you.
Yeah. No. That's just. Let me get rid of this. Hang on. Never mind. I'll. It's a guitar player.
Hmm.
Yeah. Calling from Boise, Idaho. All right.
Okay, so speaking of Boise, Idaho, you just, I believe, played your first gig since the shutdown in Indianapolis. Were you in Indianapolis?
Yeah, we did a gig about 2 months ago in Gilroy, a big private gig in Northern California, and for major money. And we just did Indianapolis Fair, Indiana Fair, State Fair, about 3 days ago.
And so, okay, so I want to talk to you about COVID. The people who watch this, I started in, when the pandemic started, I started going live 7 days a week.
Really good for you.
To just, because I had nothing to do and I wanted to be of service to everybody else. So I just did it. And so we're called the COVID crazies because we were all a little crazy about all this stuff. So I want to talk to you about what you did when all that happened, but how was it going out there and being in a live venue, a lot of people at a state fair? Did you feel safe? Did it feel okay?
You know, I didn't think about it. I mean, I got on LinkedIn and was critical of Eric Clapton. I have to say I was, for saying, you know, it's okay to come if you can't not. You can be unvaccinated and come to my show. And I think that's bullshit.
He actually won't play venues that are insisting on people proving that they're vaccinated.
Well, everybody's got their own thing, you know, and he had a bad reaction to his shot. And I think I did too, looking back on it. But I'm vaccinated and now he is. But if you're not vaccinated, you can pick it up and spread it. And the British papers are full of people dying that we were swearing they were never going to get the shot. And now they're dead. And I just thought it was somewhat, you know, the only word I can think of is selfish. I mean, what's the big deal? I mean, there's a chance like 1 in 2 million you're going to have a bad adverse reaction to it. They're great odds. They're really good odds. The alternative is dying on a respirator alone. Your family aren't allowed in the room.
Right.
You die an agonizing death and you die alone. And so I thought that was irresponsible. Van Morrison is the same way. They're friends and they've been doing this thing like, you know, you don't have to get vaccinated. But now all these people in the South, in the Midwest in America are becoming seriously ill. And it's mutated into something that's even more virulent and really deadly. I mean, come on, people. It's like a flu vaccine. It's like a polio vaccine. Let's go, grow up, bite the bullet, get the fucking vaccine, grow up, let's go, and let's get through this. We're like in our second year now, and it's mutating again and again. If you don't get vaccinated, it's not good.
One of the women who's watching the show today, her name is Laura. Her sister and brother-in-law were anti-vaxxers. They both just came down with COVID. He's paralyzed. His limbs are paralyzed. You know, it's not a joke. It's not a funny thing. And, you know, I don't know. I literally heard that Clapton said he will not play venues where they insist people are vaccinated.
I know.
That's just craziness. But anyway.
Well, you know, I mean, Bruce Springsteen was under a lot of pressure in New York. He said either get vaccinated or you're not coming in. And there was all these middle class people, all these, like, you know, obviously people with money. They weren't just like people trying to start a fight, all outside his concert complaining. But he went back to it. I think he's almost relenting. And then he said, no way. And now it's back. You know, if you're not vaccinated, don't bother. And a lot of people on Broadway are doing that. I mean, look, geez. I mean, you say something. I mean, I feel like I'm just going crazy, but I mean,
no. I'm in total agreement, and I'm in awe that you got on a plane and you traveled to Indiana. So what did you feel? Okay, you felt.
Well, I've been vaccinated. I mean, the chances of getting it again are like so incredibly small.
Well, John, they're not though. A lot of double vaxxed people are getting sick now. They're not going to the hospital. They're not dying. But I know 8 people that got really sick in the last recent.
Yeah, my girlfriend just said she's got a chest thing going, and she says, I feel terrible. and she's gone off to get tested. But I get it. I mean, I really do get it. And I'm not being glib or like, left, like I'm just saying, I mean, I got the same kind of reaction that Eric Clapton did. I got like pains in my feet and my hands, and it stayed for like a month. And I just realized after reading his symptoms that I got the same thing.
Wow.
But when you're vaccinated, you've got like a very, very strong chance of not, you wear the mask and you sanitize and you don't breathe on people or get too close. You just respect other people.
So how did you handle after the show, John, when you were at the state fair and everybody wanted to see you afterwards? How did you?
I was shaking hands with everybody. I mean, it's part of the gig. And I think a lot of people have vaccinated. I mean, I know I'm maybe digging a hole for myself, but I'm in that mental place now where it's me and it. I've done everything I can do to fight it, and I'm not going to stay home any longer, and I'm going to play music. And I think playing music is going to send a message to people that it's time to come out and get involved in life again, and be careful, but come out. Nobody can keep this up. I think the psychological damage of the last year and a half is just so massive.
Totally traumatic. So tell us about your experience. So when it first started, did it interrupt work for you? What were you in the middle of?
I was in the middle of touring. I'd just come back from New York on the train, and I was going to kick off some more dates and they all got cancelled, moved. The European tour got moved. And then, wow, there was no vaccine then.
Right.
And everybody's like housebound. I just said, well, that's it. I'm stuck.
What did you do? How did you live when in the
I'm trying to avoid saying it, but I just drank an enormous amount of red wine. I used to go to the store every morning with a mask on and the whole thing and buy a couple of bottles of really good red wine and something for dinner, and we'd cook dinner and then basically get hammered, and I did that. I mean, man, you end up being toxic, but it was always, you couldn't go out. I remember going to look at the ocean, which is only like a block away, and thinking it was dangerous to go out into the Palisades Park. Everybody was like, and then we had a kind of a riot here. There was a Black Lives Matter protest that turned extremely ugly, and there was windows kicked in and looting, and it was about to go to the full-on boil, and the National Guard came in, and at that point, it was like, is it time to leave America? Is it time to rethink what I'm doing with my life? But I went back in the studio. That's what I was going
to ask you. Were you prolific? Oh, so that was a product of
COVID? I mean, the third CD is a 3 CD set. The other 2 CDs have been out, but I was looking at the painting. This is the poster, but I was looking at the drawing that was going to be for sale, and it looked like an album cover. It looked like Dylan's self-portrait, and I guess being a Dylan fan, I thought about the bootleg series 1, 2, 3, which I was listening to when I was in bad English. And I think it all just fell into place. I went and recorded at the Doghouse, my favorite studio, and it only took about 3 days.
Wow.
And then I put it out. It's one of those things that's, I'm really proud of it, actually. I think it could be the best thing I've done. It's hard to say that because I know people they have their favorites, Missing You and The Babies and Bad English and all that. But there's something in that record, the records, that's me. And the singing is committed. It's not, and I wasn't really worried about anything. I just sang the thing and that's done, next. It was like, it felt like I'd come into my own.
Wow.
A difficult situation. And there was something very, I don't know. I'd finally arrived, I thought. Yeah.
That's really fabulous. And at the same time, you were also doing art. You were.
Yeah. I think that was what really was part of what got me through. I before the pandemic, I went out and bought like 20 canvases and an incredible amount of paint and brushes. And I actually went out again and bought some more Blick, good old Blick. And everything just turned upside down. It was like I became kind of like completely into that. And I was reading a lot. I was reading, getting through a book every 2 days. You know, I was like reading some amazing stuff.
What would you, can you tell us anything that you read that,
Well, one of the rock and roll things that might be interesting is I read M Train by Patti Smith, and she's a tremendous talent. Musically, she's spectacular. As a poet, there's nobody comes close to her outside. You know, but she's equal to Dylan, really. She really is. But her writing style and her honesty, they're just so. I mean, M Train really moved me. I actually did a portrait of Patti, and that got sold immediately. But just so great. Actually, last time I was in New York about 2 months ago, I went down to Cafe Eno, which is just sort of on the end of Houston in those beautiful old buildings on the west side. And she came up with most of the idea for M Train in Cafe Eno in the corner seat. And it's closed now, but I went all the way down there and I found it after really it's closed. And I looked in, and there's the corner where Patti was musing and writing these spectacularly beautiful. I mean, it's high art. But I mean, there was Patti. I read a biography on Caravaggio, the painter. He was a complete nutcase that was the father of realist painting. And biographies, a lot of biographies and poetry, and some of it's fiction. George Simenon, the French writer. I mean, everything. I mean, honestly, I just love literature, books, as John Lydon would say. It's nothing, again, it's nothing like, I'm clever. If I was clever, I wouldn't be reading any books. I mean, I just love learning stuff and people's opinions. I mean, I've got everything here from F. Scott Fitzgerald to, I just discovered Hemingway about 4 years ago. I tried to read Hemingway on 2 separate occasions and just thought, I don't get it. Farewell to Arms. And 4 years ago, I read it again and got it. So you slowly work through Hemingway, and it's like an education, Movable Feast. You just go like, what? Fuck, wow. And then you go back and read the stuff you read as a kid that you didn't really get. Hermann Hesse, Steppenwolf.
I love Hermann Hesse. Was my favorite when I was a teenager. Wow.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
So John, in my house where I'm sitting right now, for 12 years, I've had a literary salon.
Really?
Month, yes, where people come and read from their books, celebrities who write books, and then musicians play. And many of your friends have played in my living room. And Mickey Dolenz has read his book and sang, and Howard Allen read and sang, and all these crazy people. So when the pandemic is done and I'm ready to have 50 people in my living room again, I would love for you to come. And
I honestly mean it. I mean, I'll come.
I
think we have a rapport, and I like your style, and I like your jammies, and
I have to the whole thing.
Yeah, baby, take it off. Yeah, yeah.
We're going for the full pajama look now. No more John.
Come on, yeah. But I'd love to come. I really would, and that's like the soiree,
It's just exactly. It's a soiree. It's like a Gertrude Stein kind of thing. We eat. People bring food. We eat.
Lovely.
We talk about the art. We chat. It's all.
That's very New York. That's very New York.
Yes, I did it in New York as well. I used to do it in both. Yeah, in both places. Yeah.
Wow. Before we sort of went on the air, if nobody's aware of it, we were talking about New York, in the spectacular years of New York.
Wow.
that we
So,
were-
okay, so tell me about your New York experience. So you lived on the Upper West
Yeah,
Side, which wasn't really the music scene so much.
no, that was when I first got there, when I made the first solo album. And when I came back and I had Missing You, I was living in London Terrace Towers, like 22nd, 23rd Street down there.
That's why you know Spodiotes.
Well, you know, I mean, those clubs used to be all over the city. You just like
Right,
jumping
but
down.
Spodiotes was right
Yeah,
down by London Terrace there.
yeah. It was right on the, it was almost in the meatpacking district, wasn't it?
Fran Lebowitz lived in London Terrace. I don't know if she still does, but there
I
were a
think
lot.
yeah, I think actually Patti Smith lived there for a while.
And I was going to say that too, and I wasn't sure if I was right about that, but I think
Yeah, no, but in the book, she's talking about like she because it's down the street from the Chelsea.
yes, it is.
So it's just like, and I think it was something that came up and she moved in with Maplethorpe, I think. But the fabulous scene though that we both saw.
Ugh.
I mean, you know, you look at New York now and it's a bit like, yeah, but back then the people and the funkiness of it all and the lights, the people, the energy.
Scene. The music scene. I mean, you could go from one end of town to the other, and there was live music everywhere, every night.
Yeah.
Talking about Humble Pie, I saw Humble Pie at the Fillmore East in like 1971 or something crazy.
Was that when they recorded the album?
I did not see a live recording night. I saw them play, but they weren't recording a live album the night that I saw them. Too bad, but
yeah, no, I mean, good God. I mean,
yeah, it was crazy there. John, have you thought about writing your own memoir?
Well, there's a documentary been filmed and it's finished and it's in the final process of getting clearance from some music publishers. They had to go to Led Zeppelin, which was very flattering. They okayed me singing Whole Lot of Love.
Wow.
And, yeah, well, I know Robert through Alison, and sort of I just know everybody. But there's this movie.
You do.
Yeah, but
We're going to talk about that too.
yeah, but you know, but there's a documentary, and that's out next year, and that's really been enough. I mean, it's always enjoyable to chat, but I mean, talk about yourself in day 3. You know, it's back to the red wine. I mean, it's like, you know, it's just like there's only so much you can say about yourself before you're just sick of it. But it's a major thing. But a lot of people being interviewed and footage from the babies, my first appearances, and the whole thing.
Fantastic.
And it's pretty honest. It's pretty honest, you know.
But there's a difference. I mean, you are a writer, you are an artist. So, I mean, I can just see it. I can just see you penning that story from
Yeah,
your
but
heart.
how do you I mean, I tried at one point. I start as I fall asleep, I'm thinking. And I actually got to the point where I was writing the first page. And it's so tumultuous and it's so otherworldly. I mean, Keith Richards did very well.
Very well. Excellent.
Very,
book.
very well. Very articulate. It wasn't ghostwritten. It was edited by somebody that was very good at that stuff and could out. They probably just ran a tape and let him talk and then you put it together and he okayed what he liked. Maybe. I can't see Keith the pen doing it, but I could probably do it like this.
I don't know. I've been told he's very, very literate, and
Yeah.
he might have written more than you think. I think.
Yeah, you know, but he's talking about, you know, Baader Meinhof and all these and you know, this London, which was, there's a guy. If you're into a book, read this. It's by Kieran Pym, and it's called Jumping Jack Flash, David Litvinoff and the Rock and Roll Underworld. David Litvinoff.
Okay, it's on the screen. I'll grab it.
But this guy knew George Melly and was living on the Thames with George. And then he was part of all this sort of like wild gay culture in Soho and the drinking clubs. And then he was the mastermind of Performance, the movie. It was all based on, and he was like writing it. He was a personal friend of Eric Clapton's. He was living with all the royalty, the like beatniks. But this guy,
Yeah.
It's like Zelig, you know, wherever you look, there's like, you know, this, but this guy is the most important guy of the 60s
Wow.
in Britain. This man, you have no idea the influence he had on rock and roll art. And he was like out of his mind. It was like, you know, like everything was art. And he hung out with the Cray twins. He was deep in that gangster thing I was talking about before, about the 50s. This guy, I mean, it's so well written. This guy's only written one book.
Wow.
And at the end, there's like 100 pages about memory. And you get all these very sort of titled bohemian types in London that are they're part of the royal family in some distant way. They're like artists and poets. And some of the things that come up, it's life-changing. It's a life-changing book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a read.
I'm gonna check it out. So, okay, so let's talk about some of these people that you just mentioned. How did you team up with Alison Krauss? How did that happen?
Well, I was making a record called Downtown. It was just re-recording some stuff and putting some tracks that I'd finally got the copyrights back to. And it's just to put something out to get some interest, to get a couple of reviews, or just put my name out there so I could tour. And I got to Missing You, and I couldn't think of any other way to do it but do a duet. And I thought, well, and I'd watched Alison from a distance, watching the country music channel. I think it was called the American Music Channel, when I was recording Figure in a Landscape. And I was always aware of bluegrass. And she's beautiful, you know, you had to notice her, but she was great. And I was in Nashville, I was living there recording, and my manager made the call and said, do you want to sing with John Waite? And she told me later that she was in the back of the room and the call came in, and she just said, yeah. And a couple of days later, we met and sang the duet. You know, it was, and became quite good friends. And I went and played the Opry with her, and hung out with, when she was doing the Robert Plant thing, got to hang out with her and Robert and see a lot of that tour and become part of that world. But I got to meet Larry Sparks, the bluegrass guitar player, and Del McCurry and the Whites. I saw a lot of the bluegrass scene. It was really charming. You know, I mean, the bluegrass people are really incredible. They're just really authentic. The country people can be sneaky. They're like, you know, they're like showbiz, you know, and they know the game, and they can be really rough. But the bluegrass people were just the sweetest, you know.
That's an interesting, I've never heard that observation before. That's interesting. Sneaky. I like it. And how about playing with Ringo and doing the All-Star Band? I mean, wow. I mean, getting back to having Ringo play drums while you're singing.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I know.
What the hell?
Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, if you go back to me being like 9, watching the Beatles' first performance on black and white TV, and then my mum taking me to the pictures to see Hard Day's Night, because I couldn't go by myself, and idolizing these 4 guys, and, you know, McCartney and Lennon and George and all that. And Ringo was extremely popular, but very funny. And then years later, you're playing with him. I mean, it's like the world is smaller than you might think. You know, I got the phone call one day from my manager at the time, said, do you want to play with Ringo? And I'd been offered a Broadway play. And I was really thinking about doing that.
Can you tell us what it is, or not?
No, it was, you know, it didn't come out. I didn't go for the audition. I was talking to him. It was actually a musical. It was the Aida, I think it was. But I was going to play the villain, which was just right up my street. You know, it was not, it wasn't going to be like, you know, pop star. It was, and the songs were great. I think the songs were Elton John songs, but it was powerful, you know, and I was really thinking about doing that. Probably, you know, professional suicide in the hip world, but I don't care about that. It was going to be interesting, you know, so I was going to do it because it was interesting. And the phone rang and it says, you know, do you want to go and play with Ringo? And I said, yeah. And I just put the phone down. And then as soon as I put the phone down, I thought, oh, fuck. You know, I'm going to have to go back to playing bass. I got to learn the bass again. And I just started sleeping with the guitar, you know. And as the tour got like 4 months out, they said who else was going to be in the band. And I had to learn their songs and do it well. You know, I mean, I didn't even want to sing. By the time I arrived for rehearsals, I was asking not to sing harmonies. Just wanted to be at the back, play the bass, do a great job. And if they wanted me to come out and sing a song, that was great. But I just wanted to do the right thing, you know. It was nerve-wracking, you know, it really was.
Was it fun once it got underway? Did you have a good time with it?
Well, a lot of egos, you know, a lot of egos. It was kind of sticky because everybody's like, you know, you got people who have #1 records.
Right.
And then at the back of it, you got Ringo. Okay. I mean, he's like, you know, it's, you know, and I'm a bass player. I just wanted to be quiet on the end and nail it. I mean, Paul Carrack, The Living Years, and some of the songs from Squeeze. I mean, and How Long. And he's probably one of the, if not the keyboard player in contemporary pop rock music or whatever, but it's him. There isn't anybody else. He has incredible taste, and he plays like there's Bill Evans in there somewhere. It's like really beautiful. And I just wanted to do the right thing with those songs, you know. But I don't think I'd do it again. I mean, it was really something, but once is enough, you know.
Well, you played with the Beatles. You did it.
Yeah, you know, I could look back and say, yeah, my mom and dad liked it, you know.
I bet. Do you know Paul? Has that happened?
Paul, I was playing Radio City Music Hall that night with Ringo, and I'm back in New York City, my home really, and I'm walking down 57th Street, just in the sunshine, just trying to get some air. And Paul is walking towards me with his wife, the blonde girl he's divorced from now. And he looks at me and I look at Paul, and we're about 20 feet away. And I'm thinking, whoa, you know. And we got level, and bless him, he raised his eyebrow and looked at me like, you know, hey, you know. And I went like,
wow.
I just nodded, and I didn't even say hello. I nodded and I just kept walking. My brain was too full of Ringo. I couldn't handle another Beatle. You know, honestly. And I could tell, you give me this look like, how's it going? And I you know, I'm trying. But I kept walking. I just kept walking.
I'm sure you've gotten to meet a lot of your heroes as the course of your career. Anybody stand out as being somebody who exceeded your expectation? Yeah,
2 weeks or a week after I moved to New York City, I was living on 72nd Street, and I was missing my girlfriend, and it wasn't working out. It just was. I was by myself. It just seemed overwhelming, and I had some friends, Carol Kay and Ricky Bird. They were like friends.
Ricky Bird is one of my oldest friends.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's like a small world. Anyway, I think I went. It wasn't with Ricky and Carol, but I went into Tracks, and I was completely all I listened to. I had 3 cassettes for the Walkman. One was Pretenders 2, one was Diamond Dogs, David Bowie, and one was Face Dances, I think it's called, by The Who, with You Better You Bet On. And I walked into Track, sat down, and I'm drinking Budweiser. And Pete Townsend walks in, and I'm in a booth at the end with Mick Jagger and Jerry Hall. and you know, he's like a god to me. He was like, I mean, Townsend is like the poet laureate of rock. You know, he's the British. I mean, he's just incredible.
I just saw them at the Hollywood Bowl right before the pandemic. It was maybe one of the greatest concerts I've ever been to in my lifetime. He still plays his ass off, and Roger still sings his ass off.
Yeah, it's almost a religious thing to watch the Who. I saw him play at Lancaster University when I was 18, and it was religious. It was, I can't even describe. And you know, you see footage from like Paris on the Tommy tours, and it's held at one camera, and you just go, what? It's bigger than life. It's life itself. Anyway, but Townsend walks in, and he gets on stage. Jagger's up, sort of like, you know, being Jagger, trying to light up the room, kind of thing. Oh, I'm in the building, and Jerry looks beautiful, but he's got this big baggy suit on. Rough Boys had just come out the year before, but he looked just like from the video, unshaven, unkempt, white shirt, Doc Martens, and it looks like a Johnson suit. And he goes on stage and starts tuning up. And I thought, fuck it. And I run up and I said, hey, do you mind if I sing one? He said, yeah. And we're both on stage, and he's kicked something off, and I start singing something. I don't know what it was, but I was up there for like 20 minutes, and we played like 4 different jams. And then he comes over and says, do you mind if I sing one? I said, yeah, thanks, man. And like walked. But that's the reason I stayed in New York.
Wow.
I mean, he was a god to me, still is, really. You know, Empty Glasses, just, you know. And I'd played with him, and he was a really sweet, big, looked like a fucking teddy bear with a suit on. It's huge nose, but he was Townsend. You know, and he was authentic. It wasn't like some idiot that's like, you know, that's hanging out by the bar. Yeah, I'm in the building. You know, it was like, he was on stage, and he was like a mile high. And about 2 months later, I went in again, and Carol brought Steve Marriott. It was, again, you know, just a god to me. And me and Steve talked all night about music, and then got on stage, the same stage, and played through some blues.
Wow.
And, you know, so I got off to a running start in New York. I really did.
Wow. Did you do that? Would you go to like the China Club and I mean, I did the jam, and you'd get up. You weren't on my nights, damn it.
But yeah, but I jammed with Stevie Wonder once in the China Club.
Wow.
He was sitting in the audience, and I walked up and said, "Hey, John Waite, missing you." And like, oh yeah, and I said, I'm a huge fan. Do you want to get up and play something? And we got up, and he was doing Superstition, and he's going ding 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 ding, that's Superstition, and take it, John, and I froze. I couldn't remember any of the words. I said, "Take it back, Stevie." But you know, I've had some really great moments. There are people, you know, the music business is like, you meet people who are just off the beam. They're clever, they might be successful, but they're all about them. And it's like a game, and they're intrigued by it or whatever. And they're pretty transparent. And then you meet these other people who are like carved in stone. You know, they're soulful, compassionate, fiery, angry, desperate, whatever, but they're artists, you know, and you can see it a mile off. You know, you go backstage somewhere, it's like, hey, how you doing? Oh yeah, can you play my new record? And it's like, get the fuck out, you know. And then you meet these other people who are dead serious, look you in the eyes and talk to you, and they're the people I talk to, really.
I love the fact that you do that when you come off stage, that you talk to the people who wait.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have a meet and greet, and I really do try to spend like 5 minutes with everybody. I mean, why not? I mean, it's going to mean, I mean, those people that I met did that with me. Townsend, Marriott. The next day he invited me over to his house for Sunday lunch.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know, Bowie. I mean, Bowie played with a lot of my musicians, Alan Childs and Carmine Rojas, all those guys, you know. And when I was doing a press junket in Europe, they were doing Hamburg or something, and Bowie, David, sent an invitation. Do you want to come to the show? And, you know, we'll take care of you. And I got to the show, and he put me in a a gantry by the side of the stage. Carmine run up, give me a bottle of wine. Bowie walks out, smiles at me, and then does the whole show. And I saw him in the China Club about 2 months later, and I said, "Thanks, it was a great night." And he said, "I could hear you," But I mean, people, those people, they might have a defense, they might have a tank, but inside of them, they're the most fragile and they're the most human, and therefore they have compassion. And all this arena rock shit and people running around shredding and all that crap. And, it's like, just get away from me, I mean, it's bullshit, really. But the ones that are great, it's like, it's incredible when you meet them.
I love that. And I think, and I agree with you that if somebody's got that artist soul, because the ones that don't and that are just full of themselves, I don't know how they're really artists.
Yeah, but you never judge the artist by the art. That's what they say. I mean, it's like some people are just gifted and they can, but they're just barely there, or they're just the weirdest people. Yeah.
Well, that's sad. John, I'm so grateful that we didn't even talk about it, but Sandy Genarro, who I've known for years, and that's why you're here, because I just happened to see his post on Facebook and he was in a picture with you, and I was like, Sandy, what? And
yeah,
what?
And
then you found me on LinkedIn the next day, and that's why you're here, because it all kind of started. And I love the fact you do your thing on LinkedIn mostly. I see most of your posts are on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, I try to. You wouldn't believe the amount of press and podcasts that just and promotion and people that I haven't seen for years, that once they got wind I had a record out, I'm on that show, they're playing the record, it's like, thanks, but I have a big Facebook thing and Twitter, but there's a lot of professionals on LinkedIn, and you meet people you haven't seen for years. It's wonderful. Frank Filippetti, the producer, just 2 days ago said, "Hey, John, it's me. Where have you been?" And just great stuff. Jeff Van Dyne, my tour manager. There he is.
I tried to find you on Twitter. I actually had trouble finding you on Twitter.
Really? No, just like John Waite.
It wasn't just John Waite, because there were a whole bunch of John Waite things, but none of them were the official you. I
think John Waite official would be the one.
Okay, I'll go back and look. And also for people who want to find your music, your art, it's johnwaiteworldwide.com. That's where you can find John's stuff. We can buy your art on there. We can buy music on there. Everything's accessible on your website. Also, on your tour dates, you have like you're going to be out for.
Yeah. We're going to Europe too. It's really, it's weird. I've got used to being a painter and burying my nose in a book, and now I'm sort of back, but it's great.
Does it feel good?
Yeah. When it kicks in, it's great. I mean, I don't get nervous anymore. I think if there was like a riot in the front row, or the stage got hit by lightning, I would take great pride in just keeping going. There's something about being a professional, and you kind of wear it as you get older. You sort of like say, yes, that's right, I can do this. And it's great to play to people. I mean, the communication of it, the release for both sides is pretty great,
I love that you're doing it. I love that you're happy doing it. Somebody asked me which vaccine you got. I can't go without.
Moderna.
You got the Moderna. Yeah. So I had a reaction too. Did you get sick the next day? Because the next day.
Yeah. No, everybody gets sick. My mom, who's like 96 now, didn't get sick, but I got sick for like 36 hours. I thought, the world was it was like having flu.
Yeah, it was the worst. It was horrible.
And the second jab too can really.
The second jab killed me. The second jab was like, not good. But I'm glad you got it, and I'm glad you're getting out there and people are seeing you. I'm still afraid to do that. So do you go to restaurants again and sit and do all of that? And
yeah, well, I after the pandemic, I just decided enough. The Coke was going back in the bottle. You know, it was like time to straighten up, fly right, get back on the beam, write a new record, and go out and deliver. And I just got, I think, you know, I just got sick of wine. I had so much of it in the pandemic with the lockdown. The effect wasn't the same. I graduated into, I'm trying to write a new record all by myself without any kind of guitar player coming in and was kicking a really personal one-off in the style of Wooden Heart. And I think it's weird, you know, being completely sober, because you really have to face the person you are.
Okay, we have to, I wasn't going to go, I'm sober. I've been sober for 19 years. So
God bless you.
I was going to ask you about that. So you said you put the cork back in the bottle now. Did you ever have a period in your life where drugs, alcohol got in your way?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's heroin and there's cocaine and there's alcohol. And all those three things are in major play when you're a musician. Their access to that. There's sex, drugs, rock and roll. I mean, I hate to, I don't really reveal anything, but I mean, I certainly have done every drug in the universe, but I was very fortunate that I always knew when to stop. And I had friends of mine that died, died. Bobby Chenard.
Oh, Bobby, yes.
Yeah, sweet Bobby. And what a great musician. And Bobby just had a heart attack. Freebasing, really. That's how he spent his time. And other friends that just died because they lived so hard when they were younger. And I've been all over the map. I've done the whole thing. But there was always this voice in the back of my head that said, enough. And I was always able to get up and leave. And I could flirt with any kind of drug or whatever. And when it stopped being fun, it didn't get funky, as David Bowie would say. It's like, I just knew when to stop. So I was able to sort of live in all those different worlds, but drugs never got out of control. You'd know it when it did. You would know that you were like waking up or not waking up. You were still awake 2 days later, thinking, what the fuck did I do? I'm swearing off it. But I mean, in the end, it just stops working. It isn't. And some people, unfortunately, can't stop. And it's just like you watch them go off the edge of the world, you know, and it's terrible. Some real talent, you know. I mean, some real talent that should still be with us didn't come out the other side, you know. But I certainly lived that life, you know.
And
that's
so
the documentary too.
Just stop on so you've put the cork back in the bottle. You're not drinking wine now?
No, I just completely decided. It's only a couple of months, but I mean, it certainly is great. I mean, I feel energized, clear, creative. I'm straight ahead with people. I'm not avoiding issues. I just get right to it. And I'm thinking that that's going to be a whole different aspect of a writing process, you know.
I love that. I think that's true. I wrote my book sober, and I used to think that I could never be funny or do any of that sober. And I think we're funnier and smarter and more creative.
Yeah, I do too. What's your book called?
It's called Don't Jump, Sex, Drugs, Rock and Roll, and My Fucking Mother. And that's the China.
Oh, whoa!
I love my mother. My mother just turned 90.
Yeah.
She's amazing, like your mother, still beautiful. And it's I'm making amends to my mother in the book, actually. I'm going to send you a copy. I'm going to send you a copy.
I would love to have one. And I'll send you a picture.
I would love that. I would love that. Before we go, would you play a little something for us and play us out?
Well, I'll play the Donovan's song because it's really easy.
Okay.
I'll take the glasses off too. Nice. In the chilly hours and minutes of uncertainty, yeah, I long to be in the warm hold of your loving mind, and to feel you all around me now would be the sweetest thing. Yeah, it'd make me sing. Oh, but I may as well try and catch the wind. but I may as well try and catch the wind.
Oh, I love that song. I love you, John. It has been so delightful to.
I really enjoy speaking with you. I felt it would like kindred spirit, so.
Old friends. It feels that way.
Yeah.
I look forward to more you, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Don't go off air because I'm going to give you my address.
Okay, well, I have to end this thing, but I'll get you back private.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, John. See you soon. Bye.